it is the Silverlake Production Cup and the Silverlake DS3 Cup, which takes to the track first. The Production Cup cars, I believe, at the front of the grid, headed by Rich Hockley, who was by nearly a second and a half quicker than anyone else in qualifying this morning. Oliver Divine King, who we saw out earlier on in the VW Audi races, will be starting his Audi TT from second on the grid, ahead of Henry Swanson and Tate Taverner. Then Matthew Hollier with Colin Dunn on row number 3 in the Renault Clio. Pair of Renault Clios, actually. Hayden Payne in the VW Golf starts 7th, ahead of David Richardson, who also was out earlier on in the Audi TT. David Clark is next, listed as driving a Renault 5. Now, I do hope that's a Renault 5, and I hope it's one of the classic Renault 5s as well. One of my favourite cars ever, the Renault 5, proper retro throwback car. That starts 9th alongside the Fiesta Mark 7 of Aaron O'Toole, and then Gerard Merriman and Kelton Martin at the back of the grid. Then there's a gap and we start getting into the Citroën DS3s. Good to have a good handful of them out this weekend. 7, I believe, entered this weekend. Aaron Chalk and Daniel Duell are on the front row of the grid, ahead of Theo Longman and Alex Hughes. Lewis Tyson and Bailey Coop McGuffey are next, with Curtis O'Brien at the tail end of the field. So 7 of those Citroën DS3s, which are running within the Silverlake DS3 Cup, which is another of the BRSCC's new initiatives, which launched a couple of seasons ago, is now starting to gain a bit of momentum. It's running as a championship for the first time this year, and developed in conjunction with the BRSCC's long-term partners, SW Motorsports, who provide the kits for the cars. It's another one of those sort of quirky one-make series that the BRSCC are really quite good at developing, and good to see a few more of them out on track for this first race of the day. So, grid formed. We've got the green flag lap though still to go, and Rich Hockley in his Honda Civic will be at the front of the grid. Can't imagine Rich Hockley driving anything other than a Honda Civic, really. It's a car that we see him, well, a type of car we've seen him have a huge amount of success in over the years. Various different versions of the Honda Civic that he's raced in the past. In fact, he's not the only Civic out there, is he? Because we've also got the EP3 shape Civic of Tate Taverner, starting on the second row of the grid, and that very familiar yellow Audi TT on the outside of row number 1, which is the Oliver Divine King car. Audi TT Cup spec machine. It is the same car that he was racing earlier on in that championship. And, he's back out again, pulling double duty today. Busy day for him then, with 4 races today. 2 in the Audi TT Cup, and another 2 now within the Silverlake Production Cup. Bit of a delay then in getting the cars released onto the green flag lap. I think there's a bit of recovery work still to be done after that Mini 7 race, but the green flag does now wave. The cars then head out and the drivers make their final preparations. Scott Woodward, I'm delighted to say, has navigated his way back to the commentary box and is ready to talk through this race with me in an eclectic mix of cars that we've got on show, Scott.
Apparently you're ripping me on the commentary, so I'm not talking to you.
Me? No, that doesn't sound like me at all, Scott.
I beg to differ. Joking, of course. No, on serious notes, aside from that, because I was told by the cameraman not to grass on him. But anyway.
Oh, Ian, I'll be having words.
Anyway, that aside, jokes back to the task at hand. Yeah, this is good to see. Production Cup. It's basically a sprint format of what the ever popular Club Sport Trophy. So it's a very similar class structure. I think it's 6 classes in the mix, but also it's mixed in with, as you rightfully said, the DS3 Cup, which is kind of a next step up from City Car Cup. Of course, it's that lineage of cars you've got when you go through the different step ups. You've got the C1, you go to the City Car Cup, then you go into the DS3 Cup, and then move forwards into other categories on top of that. So good to see we've got a few of them. They're mixed in with the Production Cup cars because they fit quite nicely. And again, just like we do get in Club Sport Trophy, Production Cup is giving us a nice eclectic mix of cars, a lot of different mix of machines in there, from a Peugeot 308 to a Honda Civic Type R EP3 to a Volkswagen Golf, and even an old school little Renault 5 GT Turbo, and everything else in between. So good to see we've got a nice mixture forming up once again. It's still growing popularity, an old Mark IV Golf GTI in there as well, which is nice to see. So lots of older and newer machinery, and the DS3 Cup cars complement it nicely as well.
Yeah, good initiative, the DS3 Cup. I do hope that we can get a bigger grid of these cars as we go through the season. As you said, the fact it's now running as a championship this year, hopefully will entice a few more people out as the season goes on. And sort of the bigger brother almost of a Citroën C1, isn't it, the DS3? So maybe a bit of a Citroën racing ladder developing there within the BRSCC ranks. There is the Renault 5. It is a classic Renault 5. That's excellent news. The Renault 5 GT Turbo of David Clark, who actually, now I think about it, I'm sure I've come across David racing at Brands Hatch a few times in a couple of the BARC's championships over there. He, I think, is London based, and he's been racing that car for a little while. Brilliant to have a Renault 5 out there. There can't be many of them still racing, certainly not in the UK. I think you can probably count on the fingers of one hand how many racing Renault 5s there are, and great to have that one out on track with us here at Snetterton. The VW Golf there of Hayden Payne just ahead, whose father Andrew is part of the organisational team for the BRSCC, and Hayden, who we've seen racing a number of things actually, haven't we, within the BRSCC circle. City Car Cup springs to mind. Yes, we've seen Hayden out in those cars, but this is a bit of a step up into the VW Golf. Slightly older car, slightly more powerful car though, I'd imagine, and it'll be interesting to see how he handles that. Qualified 7th. That car runs within Class B of the Production Cup. We've got classes A, B, C and D technically within the Production Cup. It's all based on power to weight ratio basically, so Class A is at the higher power to weight ratio numbers, between 236 to 265 brake horsepower per tonne if you'd like to be precise, and then the less powerful cars running in the lower classes, meaning you've always got someone to race against within the Production Cup, regardless of what your car is. There's the Renault 5. I think the message has got through to the camera ops that I'm quite happy to see that car on the grid. I hope we'll be seeing plenty more of it over the course of the next 15 minutes then. Our first Silverlake Production Cup and DS3 Cup race of the weekend about to burst into life. Honda Civic versus Audi TT on the front row. The Peugeot then of Henry Swanson has the Civic Type R of Tate Taverner for company on row 2. 5-second board then has been shown. Racing about to commence then for the final time before the lunch break here at Snetterton. Who's going to get the best of the launches off the front row? It is definitely going to be Rich Hockley. Rich Hockley uncontested, I suspect, down into the first corner. Yep, he's going to hold the early advantage. Oliver Divine King busy trying to defend second there from Tate Taverner, who comes around the outside in the Civic, gives the TT a bit of a squeeze into the first corner. And who came out on top? Was it Taverner? Was it Divine King? They're still debating second place, actually, as they head into the braking zone at the Wilson hairpin. Not such a good start for Henry Swanson. Look, he's down into about 5th place as they turn into the hairpin, and Oliver Divine King gets a bit of an assist there from Taverner. Good save from Oliver, who I think tried to close the door through the left-hander, hadn't quite cleared the Civic. That, Scott, could have been disaster.
It could have been, but they're both front-wheel drive, so they boot the throttle and the front wheel will come back around. Despite the slow start for Henry Swanson, powering past the Taverner Civic, and now trying to go wheel-to-wheel with Oliver Divine King as they go down towards the complex. Now, Hockley's already been away and got it in the first couple of corners, but still Divine King holding firm as he tries to defend from Swanson's Peugeot 308. Down towards the bomb hole they go for the first time at racing speeds. Top 3 already creating a gap at this point, so Rich Hockley is already further firmly away and gone. He looks pretty comfortable out in front here at this point, turning his way now out of through Coram and towards Murray's for the first time. So it's Honda, from Audi, from Peugeot. That's the top 3 as they come out. You can hear the VTEC of the EK Honda Civic just blasting away in the background, that being Rich Hockley's car. And that car, it can be temperamental at times, but at the same time, when it is on form, it is pretty formidable in any kind of race it goes into, particularly in multi-class sort of hot hatch and saloon series like this. Swanson done 4th, Taverner down to 5th. He's been passed by Colin Dunn's Renault Clio. He's got Hayden Payne's car just behind in the 200, which is the Mark IV Golf, and then the DS3s, which is coming through. It should be as they come across the line. We'll see who comes across for there. Daniel Jewell leads from Theo Longman, and they're just ahead of the Mazda RX-8 of Kelton Martin. But Alex Hughes in 3rd place in car 27 in the final podium spot currently in the lap 1 in the DS3s. Oops. And that's one car off the road.
Who was that off the road? Was it Hayden Payne? No, Hayden Payne's still there. It was another blue car.
No, it's Tate Taverner.
Oh, it's Tate Taverner. It's the Civic. Yes, well spotted. That's been popped out of line. I'm not sure whether there was contact or whether it was a mechanical issue maybe. Hopefully he's been able to continue on his way, and he has, but maybe off the pace slightly. We'll see whether or not he's able to get the car back up to speed. There's the number 7 Renault Clio, Matthew Hollier, dicing away with David Richardson. They both run within Class C, so that is for class position. And the Renault Clio, another of... there's something about sort of 80s and 90s Renaults. I did quite like the design of cars, but I suppose that's just about a 90s car, isn't it? The Renault Clio, or maybe early 2000s, that shape of Clio. Anyway, good looking car, and well presented that as well. It comes up behind the Renault 5, which turns into the final turn. And Matthew Hollier then will now try and take 6th place away from David Clark in the Renault 5 Turbo across the line. As Rich Hockley leads. Fastest lap though, Oliver Devine King, and he was 3 seconds quicker than Rich Hockley. Well, 2.7 seconds anyway. I don't know what's going on there, but Oliver Devine King is on an absolute tear.
It's all that extra track time he's got for doing the
apparently
Volkswagen
so.
Audis. He's doing both this weekend. You can see there, that's the other Matthew Hollier Clio. It's got the kind of 80s Group B Renault 5 style, and that is the MX RX-8 of Kelson Martin that's gone for a spin. Meanwhile, 3 hot hatches at play. Golf versus Renault 5 GT Turbo versus Renault Clio, and it's the Golf that wins out for the moment. There's the other Clio in the mix, which is Matthew Holly, who's cleared off up the road, clearing 7th. No, that will be for him. That will be 5th position now, because David Clark and Holly are now behind him. That's Colin Dunn, in fact. I'll correct myself on that one. Colin Dunn 4th, then Payne, Clark and Hollier. Richardson in the Audi trying to chase after. This is in the DS3s, and that's Longman going around the outside of Jewel. He's led the first couple of laps, but Longman was only 4 tenths back, so changed from leading them. Third place there, just behind the Clio Gerard Merriman, is Aaron Chalk. That's from the Silverlake stable itself. So good to have a Silverlake sponsored car. And Longman's car has got a little bit of rear bumper damage, but it's fading slightly. Not fading, it's not losing lots of pace, but it's got a little bit of a loose rear bumper. Closing back in under braking. But the two of them pretty much nose to tail, and gapping Aaron Chalk pretty quickly, who himself, as you mentioned, is more fussed with battling Gerard Merriman's Clio than trying to chase after these two.
Yes, exactly so. So good competition then within the DS3 Cup at this stage. At the head of the field, by the way, Rich Hockley's now sort of responded to the challenge that was developing from Oliver Devine King. He's just set the new fastest lap, 22.0, and pulled out 1.3 seconds or so on Oliver. So Rich Hockley seems to be back in the groove again now, as the DS3 Cup lead battle turns into Murray's Corner. In front of a fairly well-packed spectator banking there. Lots of people gathering around that part of the circuit to watch this morning's racing. Great to see. Down past the timing line and past our commentary position they go. And a little bit of daylight now between Theo Longman and Daniel Jewell, with, as you said, Jewell's rear bumper coming a little bit loose. That won't be helping the aerodynamics of the car down the long straights. Main concern, though, is whether or not it becomes any looser. If it does, that could attract the attention of the clerk of the course. I'd say it's borderline now. If it comes any further away from the rest of the car, then that could be trouble. I see the DS3s have got the same quirk with the hazard lights that we see in the Fiesta ST240s, don't we, where the hazard lights are linked to the ABS system. So if you see the lights flashing in the braking zone, it's not the driver trying to distract the car ahead. It's because the ABS has kicked in. It's a crossover from, obviously, these are road cars. These are fully production-based cars, and on the roads, if you have to slam on the brakes all of a sudden, obviously you want the cars around you to know that you're slowing suddenly, and so the hazard lights will start to flash. On the racetrack, it's slightly less relevant, but yeah, don't panic if you see the flashing of the lights. It's just a quirk of the cars, which are very evenly matched. Clearly, nothing to choose between these two.
Yeah, good distraction technique, even though it's unintended, but it's good to see. So Longman and Jewell, roles reversed in how they started. So Longman probably got more experience in this car than others. He's drove it a few times last year, definitely in full verse. Little wiggle around on the brakes. Meanwhile, change for second. Henry Swanson has caught and passed Oliver Devine King. So Peugeot passes Audi, and the gap is still about just under 5 seconds. Last time by, Hockey set a new fastest lap of the race, 1:21.305. That was at least 1.3 seconds quicker than the two cars behind. It was a 22.6 for Swanson, 22.9 for Devine King. Personal bests, but still the Peugeot outpacing the Audi. There goes Colin Dunn in 4th position. It's now Clio's 4th and 5th. And I think we're ready. Yes, we've got Hollier lapping the tail end of the DS3 Cup cars. He's lapped one of them, which I think is that is O'Brien in number 30, and that is Curtis O'Brien. His next couple of cars to pick up are going to be Lewis Tyson and Bailey Coop McGuffey. There goes second, third, but they've also put a lap on Kelton Martin's Mazda RX-8. So lots of different pace differentials, but there's one or two little battles forming everywhere you look.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, Swanson was only a 1/10 of a second slower than Rich Hockley that time, and of course he was busy overtaking Oliver Devine King for part of the lap, so now he's in clean air. I wonder whether he can start closing in on the race leader, whose pace has been yo-yoing slightly. Oh, big moment. That's Theo Longman from the lead of the DS3s. Got it all wrong in the braking zone at Nelson. He's still not gathered it together like a booking Bronco. That was a rough ride over the grass. Finally manages to bring the car to a halt and correct the situation, but that was a scary moment, and Theo Longman, having fought hard to get the lead away from Daniel Jewell, throws it all away.
He's still third, though.
Yes.
He lost that not just to, what was that? Daniel Jewell, but also to Aaron Chalk in the Silverlake car. So he's down to third position, but that was quite a wild ride, an unintended wild ride through Brundle Nelson, but he managed to sort of yeehaw his way over the grass and get back through again. See here the GT Turbo David Clark is coming back at the number 7 of Matthew Hollis. These two in fairly classic Renault colours are going back and forth here. Two different generations of, I guess the Clio was the spiritual successor for the Renault 5, so these two kind of generations are working well. As I said that, was it David Clark taking it easy? Or
He's just slowing down so that we can better appreciate the glorious
that's it, right.
design of the Renault 5
So
Turbo.
it's definitely not a problem at all.
No. Famously reliable are 1980s Renaults, from what I've heard.
I think the jokes have to stop because that is, in all seriousness, unfortunately, David Clark. That not all is well, I'm afraid, looks like with that GT Turbo. So I'm afraid that car might well be pit lane bound, unfortunately. I think our favourite car on the grid, and unfortunately is retiring to the pits with an issue, which hopefully can be fixed for race 2. Now, interestingly, that's Aaron Chalk is starting to try and close in as our camera person tries to figure out who to look at. Finally finds DS3 leaders. I think he was expecting Theo Lomond to come back in, but Daniel Jules lost it himself. Loses the back end, and now Aaron Chalk somehow finds himself in the lead. He's been up 2 places in 2 quads, exactly the same spot for exactly the same reason.
I'll tell you what, they might not be the fastest cars out there, but don't be fooled into thinking they're easy to drive, these DS3s. They're obviously a bit of a challenge under braking, and, well, Jewell suddenly throws away the lead, as you say, against all odds. And, yeah, that's completely changed the complexion now of the DS3 Cup. Under braking, it's a difficult braking point, that. It's very bumpy, and you're braking on a turn. Anytime you're braking and turning at the same time, which you have to do a few times here at Snetterton, the rear of the car has a tendency to step out, especially a front-wheel drive car where all of the weight is over the front axle. The back can get very light very quickly, and we've seen how easily and how often that can go wrong. So Aaron Chalk now claims the lead with Daniel Jewell second. And what's the gap between the two of them after that? It is 5 seconds. So we'll see whether or not Daniel's got the pace to close back in and reclaim the race lead.
Yeah, certainly so. That is Dave Richardson, who is... That's the reason why I thought we couldn't pass. There was the flag. Gerard Merriman's Renault Clio that has pulled off at a rather odd angle on the pit straight. And it looks like it's an immediate failure of some kind because it's just stopped and can't go any further. Now, I don't want to say the word safety car, but unfortunately that is in a very precarious position, and that's with 4 minutes to go. Unless they're going to let it run until 75% distance, which is, what, 3 3/4 minutes?
Yes.
So they're probably, whether they let it cover under yellows, then possibly die preempt it and say they're going to red flag it.
It might be the most sensible course of action because a safety car now would probably take us to the end of the race anyway, and there's no sense really in wasting time, you could argue. Very odd, though, for the... just the angle that the car has pulled off at. As you say, it clearly lost power completely, and he couldn't even get it up against the barrier. Do we have a...
I thought that Marshall's gone running to the car to see what's happening with it. We've gone past 75% distance now, so they can red flag it, and yeah, there you go. Red flag. Yeah. Race has been stopped. And I think they were probably waiting to cover it with yellows, wait until the time it ticked through, then they can do that so they can declare it as a result, because the rule is, in case you don't know, if a race goes past 75% distance, which this one has just done, which is with 3 minutes and 45 seconds or less left to go, then they can red flag it and declare the result and the race finished. So considering they were a tiny bit behind time to try and get back on timetable, it's probably also a smarter decision given that, as you rightfully say, a safety car would have just eaten into that, taken way too long, they'd have finished under safety car, wouldn't have given us a true finish. This isn't a true finish either, not what you want to see to have it end under red flag, but unfortunately it's the better and less complicated option. Needs must, but unfortunately that's how the race ends.
Indeed so. So Rich Hockley then should be crowned the winner, and Henry Swanson with a strong run that to second position. I don't think the cars have been ushered into the pit lane, have they? But that will be the plan, most definitely. Don't see this race restarting. So there'll be a little bit of a process to get them back in. It's a shame, actually, they weren't able to stop them just a little bit further up, because they could have been guided down into the pit lane. Cars moving again. And where will they be sent? I don't think you're going to have to rush over to Parc Ferme here, Scott. I think it'll be a few minutes more before they make their way there. But off he will go, and we'll hear from our class winners for hopefully too much longer. So, cars was being stopped on the grid, but certainly not in grid order, so I don't think this is in anticipation of a restart. I think it's just so that they can communicate to the drivers what the plan is. And yeah, they're now being waved either around for a full in-lap or potentially even the wrong way up the pit lane entry, although I suspect it'll be a full lap, will it? Looking out of the commentary box window. No, they are going to bring them in. Perhaps there's a back entrance into Parc Ferme, actually. I think that might be the case. So yeah, they're going to do a bit of a U-turn at the end of the pit straight and turn backwards into the paddock area. So that will speed up the process even further. So that's good. That is our morning's racing concluded. Don't go anywhere. We'll be hearing from our various podium finishers and class winners in a moment or so, but a quick reminder of what's to come later on this afternoon still. We've got 8 more races to come. We've got 2 races from modified Fords as well, which we'll be enjoying a little bit later on. Before that, actually, here's the result then, provisionally, of that Silverlake Production and Silverlake DS3 Cup race. Rich Hockley the winner, with Henry Swanson second and Oliver Devine King third, having really been charging after Rich Hockley in the early stages. Colin Dunn was 4th, ahead of Hayden Payne. 5th position then was 6th position was David Richardson, 7th Matthew Hollier, 8th Aaron O'Toole, and Aaron Chalk inherits the win in the DS3 Cup unless those results go back a lap. If the results go back a lap, I suspect Daniel Duell will probably end up re-inheriting the win, ? Remember, he was ahead until he had that rotation down at Brundle and Nelson, but I think that was within a lap of the red flag potentially. Theo Longman was 3rd in that category, then it was Bailey Coop McGuffey ahead of Alex Hughes and Lewis Tyson in 14th position. 15th place was Kelton Martin with Curtis O'Brien and David Clark next. Jared Merriman's Renault Clio, of course, stopped on the pit straight. That's what brought about the early conclusion to the race, and Tate Taverner's Honda Civic was in the wars a little bit halfway through the race and eventually retired to the pit lane. In fact, no, sorry, stopped out on track, never made it back to the pits, unfortunately. So, morning racing done. As I was starting to say, we've got 2 modified Ford races to come this afternoon. We've also got a Racer P